This afternoon we will continue the Bodhisattva Kyanavatara, and we have done last time the first chapter, so we will do right now the second chapter and possibly the third. So the chapter number 2 relates to the confession of sins or confession of misdeeds. So this chapter deals with the whole understanding of the negativity previously accumulated and how we actually submit them or confess them. So the recognition of our previously accumulated negativity is or bear a certain importance on the path. It is again important to make the clear difference between the regret, the generation of regret towards negativity past done in the past, and guiltiness. So here we are absolutely not dealing or searching to generate guilt. What is important is to generate regret towards the negativity accumulated in the past, which starts by generating a strong sense of how to say that, a strong sense of unhappiness, I would say, regarding what wrong was done. So we recognize both the negativity that we can remember and the obvious negativity that we have created and that we don't remember from this life, or the negativity accumulated from the past lives. So there is no need when we start or when we enter into the process of the confessions of negativities, there is no need to list all the negativity that we have accumulated in this life, especially knowing that there is or there are a lot that we don't even remember from the past. The whole point is to understand that we have accumulated negativities, why and how, by which kind of mechanism we have generated negativities, and to take the decision not to repeat them. This is important because regret is part of the purification. So when we start to purify past accumulated negative karma, we need to generate this regret of what was done and this confession in the sense of acknowledging and taking the decision not to repeat them. Well, we acknowledge the negativity we have accumulated and the mechanism how we created them, and we generate the wish not to repeat them. This is to say that just saying, okay, I have done wrong things and I will not do them again is not enough, because it requires to understand how we have accumulated, why we have accumulated this negativity. And these negativities, all kind of negativities, are accumulated by attachment, by projection upon samsaric situations. So this is the important part. When we understand that most of the committed negativities were coming from the generation of attachment, and following this attachment, we engage into wrong actions. So the emphasis which is made in this chapter, in this text, is everything is impermanent, my life is impermanent, what I do consider as friends or enemy, this is impermanent. what I accumulate in this life, the content of my bank account, everything which I could be attached to actually is not permanent and will not follow me when I pass away. Even what we are calling enemies, or what we are calling friends, what kind of difference will it make when I will pass away? So if it is not important, if it is impermanent, if it is so unreliable, why to focus on and why to accumulate negativities on such a basis? And if all these phenomena are so impermanent, what really can I rely on? I can rely on the Dharma. I can rely on the teaching of Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. And engaging into the Dharma practice is the only thing that will follow me, that can help me in the future. Yes, not the only thing that will follow me, because all the negativity also will follow me. But through the Dharma and Dharma teaching, I have the opportunity to progress spiritually, to accumulate positive causes. So whatever negativity I have done in the past, I cannot change that. I can regret and take the right decision. And the right decision is not to repeat these negativities and to follow the right advice of the Dharma path. But when we talk about the confession of negativities, more than words, more than the text itself, what is important is this attitude of generating regret sincerely. And we have in most of the practices, we have this part about the confession of sins, or the generation of regret upon past negativities. So the point is not to flagellate ourselves constantly, as it would be out of guilt, but simply to have a strong regret and the generation of better actions for the future. So again, the point is not to make a list, but to recognize as a whole, I have made mistakes because of my attachment, and I confess them. And of course, how to do not repeat them when some part of our mind is corrupted by some emotions, disturbing thoughts, or disturbing tendency. It is to follow the Dharma. Yeah, because many times there are people asking, but how to do not repeat the negativity? There are some negativities which are clearly avoidable. I mean, killing the neighbor, for example, even if you have done that once, which I hope not, but such act, obviously, it is a little bit easier to say, okay, I will not do that again. But there are some other negativity generated by attachments, which is not necessarily transferred into action, but strongly in our minds. Some desire, some expression of pride, some mistakes that we, without paying very strong attention, we can repeat easily. So not to repeat this kind of negativity requires to strengthen our understanding and our practice of meditation. Meditation as mental quietness, meditation as concentration, because the more aware we become about our minds, and of course the quicker we can apply the right antidote when some negativities are arising. Why do we generate so quickly negativities? It's most of the time because we are not paying attention to what is happening in our mind, and the disturbed emotion just explode. Thus, we need to be more careful about what is happening in our mind, and this is the result of meditation. So we should not neglect meditation as a very powerful tool to integrate what we have heard or read about Dharma and to observe the mind peacefully. So I will repeat again and again the importance of the pacification and observation of the mind. And of course, not just observing the mind while we are in meditation, but mostly out of meditation when we are confronted with any kind of disturbances. Would we be more aware and careful about our thoughts? We could avert them much quicker and avoid that they pass even from the thought to the speech or to the action. So this is all part of the confession, because it is not enough just to say, okay, I'm sorry of what I have done, but I need to understand that I have done that by ignorance, and I should practice Dharma to avoid this reoccurrence of ignorance, or to avoid the reoccurrence of disturbances on the basis of ignorance. Okay, so let me see the texts. What I would have forgotten. Yes, the texts emphasize quite a lot on being afraid or being frightened by the negativity which our mind can generate. But I would not emphasize on being afraid or scared, but much more on being aware, on being very careful with what is happening in our mind. The emphasis on the end of the chapter is again on impermanence and the fact that our death could occur anytime. And would it occur today or tomorrow? Am I ready? Have I done all what I could to ensure the continuity of a spiritual progress? There are very little things in our life that we can be sure about, because everything is so fluctuating. But death is without any doubt something we will meet. And at the moment of our death, all the positive and negative deeds we have accumulated in the past, these are the only things we will carry with us. And on the basis of these negativities and positive deeds, positive imprints we are carrying with us at the time of death, our next life will be decided. Will I come back in a safe environment? Will I come back in an environment where I will find Dharma or not? It depends on all the karmic imprints I will carry with me at the time of death. That death, which can appear, which can occur anytime, on the basis of the causes I have accumulated, of course, but this is very uncertain when and how it will take place. And if I have not purified well enough the negativity I have accumulated in the past of this life and past lives, at the moment of death, then it's a heavy negative luggage I take with me. Confession and regret are part of this purification process. That's why it is so important not to carry negativities too long, but to confess them and to regret them as soon as possible. And we can avoid the reoccurrence of the generation of negativities again by the practice of Dharma, by applying all the antidotes we have been taught about. So that was the confession of sins, chapter number 2. we can pass to chapter 3, which is adopting, uptaking the awakening mind. We have seen in the first chapter all the benefits of bodhicitta, the awakening mind. So, of course, when we understand all the benefits of the awakening mind, why not to uptake the generating of bodhicitta? So this chapter is about the generation of the strong wish to put into practice, to apply bodhicitta, understanding how important is this motivation. We generate the wish to engage into its development, its generation. It is to this chapter that, in this chapter, that we can find the most quoted part, probably, of the Bodhisattva Karavatara, among which some of my preferred, which is so chapter 3, line tick, 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 17. May I be a protector for those who are without protectors, a guide for travelers, and a boat, a bridge, and a ship for those who wish to cross over. Magnificent. Then the next one, may I be a lamp for those who seek light, and a bed for those who seek rest, and may I be a servant for all beings who desire a servant. Would it be me? There is only one word that I would see a little bit different. Not may I be a servant for all beings who desire a servant, but all beings who need a servant. Because if we start to do all what people desire, this is not always possible, not always dharma. But all those who need a servant in terms of the help we can provide, and especially in terms of the skillful means we could apply to help the others, yes, definitely. And the line 21, I think, also is very important. I mean, they're all important, but these are key points. And the verse 21 says, may I be in various ways a source of life for the sentient beings present throughout space until they are liberated. So these are really the sentences or the verses placing forward what we really mean by engaging into bodhicitta. I cannot more than encourage each of you to, of course, read this chapter and meditate on every verses, one after another. In this verse that we just saw now, the verse 21, it really emphasizes on what I used to say regarding bodhicitta. It's an engagement without any limits of time and space. And the verse 23rd says, so I myself shall generate the awakening mind for the sake of the world. So I myself shall properly engage into those practices. Okay, I will not read all, even though there are many, many sentences which are extremely important and extremely beautiful to meditate upon. But the point is we are not talking about something external. We are not talking about someone else's motivation. We are talking about how we want to engage into this bodhicitta. Yes. And we are talking about motivation. We're not talking about a practice that we do once a week or that we do on specific days. It's really a type of a way of thinking that should accompany us at every moment of our life. When we talk about bodhicitta and the generation of it, we are giving an example of the mixing of water and milk so that it becomes undissociable. That everything which then is done is mixed with bodhicitta, since bodhicitta become mixed with my mind, who originates what I will engage into. And the rest of the chapter, which is rather short, clearly emphasize on the greatness of bodhicitta, of the awakening mind, on how it is actually the supreme medicine over all type of medicine, and recognizing its greatness, I personally engage into generating it. And if we combine both chapters somehow, it is, well, in the past, I did not have bodhicitta, so I have accumulated a lot of negativities. I regret the past, and at the same time, I understand the urgent need to engage into positive actions. And the most positive of all is the generation of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is without any doubt the most beautiful thing our mind can generate. But again, it's not something we should think at engaging into for a limited amount of time. Once generated, and this is our wish, it will follow our mind constantly and guide our steps. This is said to be the tool somehow, or the expression of the mind that can conquer death. It doesn't mean that once we generate bodhicitta, we do not die. It means that once we generate bodhicitta, we carry bodhicitta with us beyond death. And some people would say that then how do I generate it? How is it possible that I manifest bodhicitta? Because many times we are waiting like the result of a magic wand. Bodhicitta will not arise within our mind by an external magic wand. This is for sure, unfortunately. Bodhicitta comes within our mind because we wish for it, because we generate it. And actually, this is the whole point and the whole goal of this book, of this text. How to understand the benefits of bodhicitta, how to generate the confession from the past, and how we can engage into the positive actions of this specific motivation. I'm just looking at the last verse I have in front of me. The verse 31st. It is the great sun dispelling the darkness of the world's ignorance. It is a fresh butter formed from churning the milk of Dharma. In the sense, of course, that this is the best that we can take out of Dharma when we have gone into. In many ways, we are trying to put words on something which is beyond words. Because to say that the awakening mind is, I don't know, is fantastic, is the most precious motivation, is the top of all what one could obtain out of Dharma, is too small in many ways to really represent the preciousness of that motivation. This is the top of the mountain of the motivation. When we engage into the Dharma, of course, exists the path without bodhicitta, which leads to liberation. And this is already great in the sense that it put an end to the suffering in one's mind. So from the state of suffering into which we are within the samsara, up to the state of being liberated for good from that suffering, it's already fantastic. But it is still nothing in comparison with bodhicitta, which is the only motivation allowing us to reach complete enlightenment. Now, like everything on the path, what can allow us to switch from the text, from the words, from the intellectual understanding into the experience is through meditation. So to think about bodhicitta as much as possible throughout our daily life is important, but to find the time also to have correctly set meditation on bodhicitta is important. So to have these two types of moments regarding bodhicitta in the everyday life, how can we apply, how can we enlighten our minds, brighten our thoughts with this wish to help the others, and to have some formal meditation on the topic of bodhicitta. Yes, these two aspects are important, and to have a well set type of meditation with the topic, with bodhicitta as the topic, and on a daily basis to remember it, and as well to remember the second chapter on a daily basis, which is to watch over our minds, not to let the negativity to rise again. So to remain aware as much as possible of how our mind is functioning in order to apply the right antidote to any disturbance or disturbing emotions, in order to apply the Dharma in every aspect of what our life can bring. All right? So this is the homework for the months to come. I know that many of you, most of you have already gone through these chapters and are already working on it on a daily basis, but it's never enough as long as we reach bodhicitta and complete enlightenment. So for the months to come, let's remember these two chapters to avoid creating negativities, to remember that most of the negativities are created on the basis of ignorance, that ignorance comes or express itself because we usually do not meditate well enough on the Dharma, on what we have heard or understood. So we need to meditate more. We need to have a better view and a better control over our mind. And the third chapter, which is how I engage myself, how I want my mind to be completely changed by bodhicitta. All right? I think this is it. And especially since we are talking about how we engage our mind into bodhicitta, we will dedicate all our merits for the sake of all sentient beings.